What'd you say on the last episode? That
I don't know. Hit me with it.
the Lord does not sugarcoat the truth because that's
Yes.
not love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sugarcoating it is not love.
It's not.
That isn't.
No.
It really ain't.
And we love
Think
all of
about
y'all, so we ain't gonna sugarcoat nothing on this episode. Matt might get up and walk off the
here
set.
You go.
We fixing to get it done. What is going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the Last Flight Show. I'm your host, Jake Klein. Joining me, as always, is my co-host and owner of Last Flight Calls, Mr. Matt Hicks.
What's going on?
How are you doing today?
I am tired.
Me too.
It's I don't know. It's been a long week.
Yeah.
It's been a long week.
It's
Has to be a longer weekend because it's the 4th of July today.
Yep.
So
we've got the flag behind us. So
yeah, we just want to say thanks to all of our service members.
Yep.
You know, all the military branches, veterans.
Yep.
First responders. I don't really care who you are. You know, you keep this country great and running the way it needs to run, and our
100%.
freedom, of course.
Yep.
And got the flag up here today. We thank you guys, and you know, don't want to take you guys for granted because that's why we're able to do this podcast. You know what I mean, and live the lives we live. So
I was gonna say
we appreciate that.
Wouldn't be able to do any of this without it.
So yeah.
It's just Matt and I today. We are going to have some of these episodes like this. You know, we've talked about it on previous episodes that, you know, we plan on getting as many guests on here as we can. But there are going to be times where we have some things that we want to cover and we want to talk about, and that's going to be one of those days.
Yeah, Jake's going to get me fired up today, but I'm going to try to. I've turned over a new leaf in my life, so I'm trying to like stay calm, and
so
we're going to speak on this from like...
This is a test, right? You know what I mean?
I guess. I don't know why you're doing this to me.
So if you've listened to any of the past podcasts, I think it was episode 1 or 2 that we kind of accidentally got onto this topic and sent Matt through a spiral. And so that's...
I know, I got to speak honesty through truth and love.
Yes.
And not get too upset about it. Because it is a topic that absolutely just... I don't like people getting used.
Well, and that's just the thing.
This industry is terrible at it, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We're going to stay calm and level-headed, but hey, sometimes, you know, sometimes truth is love, and that's...
We are going to spit facts.
Yeah, we're going to spit facts.
Yeah. So
let's see what happens. Lord be with us.
The topic of this episode is the reality of being on Prostaff. And like I said, if you've listened to episodes before this, you're thinking to yourself right now, okay, here we go. And I'm sure there's been a lot of folks that have been waiting on this, but it is something that we really are passionate about as far as the conversation that we're going to have. And the importance of, you know, our beliefs and you're just really the facts of the matter. It's really not even a belief at this point. You know, we've both lived the situation, you know, and we're hoping that by talking about this, it's just gives some of you that are in this current position something to think about, and just to make sure that you are, you know, being taken care of. And one of the subtopics, this is know your worth, but we'll get into all of that.
Yeah. Let's get to the verse of the week. Get into something a little more holy.
Let's do it. Yeah. It's like drinking water and making sure you hydrate yourself. Like, you got to make sure that you get this in. That way we start this off with the right foot.
We're going to set the tone right now.
Now.
All right. Verse of the week this week. Remember, calls are releasing Monday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I just put them active when I wake up. And I'm laying in bed, and I'm like, all right, you got to switch this on. People are needing these things, you know.
Yeah.
That's when I do it. So, depending on when I wake up is when you're going to see it. But typically, around 6:30 in the morning, usually they're up by 7 a.m. Eastern. So, if you are wanting a verse of the week call, they sell out at least within the first hour every week. So, if you're wanting one, I know some guys are like really waiting.
Yeah.
As soon as I sent the email out last week, they were all gone. They all sold off the email. So they didn't even make it to social media, because if you're an email subscriber, you're going to get the email first. And then I kind of do things in order. I put it active online on the website, and then I send the email out. Then I send it to the Hunt Club, and then I send it to all the social media. So if you see it on Facebook or Instagram in the feeds, it might be too late.
Right.
You can go look, though, and if it's not, go buy it. But
Right.
just forewarn you, if you sign up for the emails, if you're wanting one.
Basically, in a nutshell, get on the email list.
You get get
on the email list.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm trying to
I guess
say.
it's
Please
like,
subscribe.
I mean, really, that's kind of like the VIP, right? Like you get
Yeah, I mean,
because the email is going to be the first thing that comes out, and
Yeah.
it's an instant notification. You know, like, hey, you just got an email from Last Flight Call.
Yeah, as long as we're not blocked or in your spam, you ain't reported us or nothing. I can see that on my end.
Can you really?
Yeah, you can see everything. Yes.
So if you think you're being sneaky and you're putting us in the
You
spam
ain't.
or blocking, we know.
We know about you. Anyways,
All right, let's do this thing.
verse of the week. I got a couple different translations here. So I kind of, when I do the verse of the weeks or I'm doing any type of Bible study on my own or with whoever, I like to look at a few different translations sometimes if I'm not quite understanding it.
Mm-hmm.
And, because the NIV is going to be a little bit different than the NLT and then, the ESV. Like those are the kind of three I bounce around.
Right.
I use the New Living Translation mostly because it's kind of easier to understand. It's like in our word,
Right, yeah.
Our jargon versus, old time jargon. I don't even know. Like I don't read any King James. I probably should some of that, but some of that wording just doesn't resonate. I can't get it.
Yep.
This week, the one that's on the call and in my hand is the NIV, and it's Psalms 145:13, and that reads, "Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures through all generations. The Lord is trustworthy in all he promises and faithful in all he does." I'm going to read out of the ESV too, just to, kind of, I don't know, like you just see the differences, right?
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people that are listening or watching, they may be using different, so it's a good thing.
Yeah. So I'm going to read out of the ESV. This is my study Bible. But anyways, your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures throughout all generations. Is this the same?
I'm pretty sure it's worded the same.
No, it's not. Okay, this part ain't.
Okay.
See what I mean, though? The Lord is faithful in all his words and kind in all his works. So kind of the same, different wording. Those two are very similar. I don't have the King James, but if you read that, I mean, probably way crazy, way different. Mm-hmm. But anyways, again, breaking it down into three parts here. In the first part, you just take that first little segment there. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. I mean, just think about that. Let that sink in. Moment of silence. All right.
What does that mean?
Like everlasting kingdom, forever, eternity. Like there's no expiration date. Like you will, if you're in there, you will live forever. Mm-hmm. Like your soul will live forever. Like he's not going anywhere. He's not jumping off the throne.
Right.
He ain't going to get overthrown.
Right.
And then I got a few bullet points here, like when you feel like you're off the rails, like crazy, life's out of control, you can always get back into this and know his kingdom's still there and stronger than ever. Like it always is, always will be.
Yeah.
He don't matter what you do.
Right.
You ain't gonna hurt the kingdom.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you're always welcome to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Earthly kingdoms, the earthly world will die, will fall, fade away. Leaders come and go, but Jesus Christ will never.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Oh, here's another bullet point that's really good. You don't serve a seasonal God, you serve an eternal King.
Yeah.
So like different seasons of life is kind of what, because you kind of go like this with your faith, and I have my whole life really. I'm at the high at one point, then kind of get comfortable and fade off, and then I get down to the valley, and I got to get back on, and you'll have that. But as long as that's kind of going up like that, that's what you want to see. It's even though all this, God's still the same,
right?
At every one of those peaks, still the same.
Yep.
He's just waiting on you,
right?
It's point number 2. Take the second part here. Your dominion endures through all generations. I haven't even read these bullet points. a whole lot, but one thing that comes to mind is like we have an impact for future generations.
Right.
Like the one thing that comes to mind is my kids. What I'm doing in my life is going to impact their lives.
Right.
And then what they do in their lives, which feeds off what I'm doing, is going to impact their children for generations and generations to come. Okay, that can be a godly thing.
Yeah.
Or that can be a sinful thing.
Yeah.
It really can, depending on, if you got an anger problem.
Right.
Well, your son's probably going to have an anger problem.
Right.
And his son.
Yeah.
And his son.
Right.
Who's breaking that cycle?
Right.
Like, break that cycle. Like, it's important.
Yeah.
To what, who you are.
Right.
To make that change in your life affects everybody.
Right.
And we hope it's a good change. It's a godly change. It's, for Jesus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Show them what that's like, not just on Sunday.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every hour of the day.
Right.
And when you do slip and fall, get back up, explain what happened, repent and get back on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you will have that.
Right.
You're not going to walk through this perfect. That's Jesus.
Yeah.
We ain't Jesus. But we are called to mimic Jesus.
Yeah.
We've got to remember that.
And it's so crazy to me that, like, the things that we've talked about in the past week, have just everything kind of comes full circle, right? Yeah. So like we had talked about, this morning in Bible study, or just like, that I had posted earlier in the week, just like something the pastor said in church last Sunday was that, the greatest sermon is not the one that you hear or read, it is the one that you live, right? So, and then now circling back to what you're talking about right now is that, if you're not, it doesn't matter what you're reading. You could sit and read the Bible every night, or you could sit in church and listen to your pastor preach. But if you're not living what you're reading and what you're hearing, what good is it doing, right? Your family, and those around you are watching you, and how you live your life and your faithful journey will determine whether or not your kids are going to do the same thing. You know what I mean? And it's so crazy that the way that everything comes full circle.
I mean, even take this show. We talk about this, the calls and putting out the verse of the day on the Last Flight Show stuff. We don't just do the verse of the week. We do the verse of the day on the Last Flight Show accounts.
Right.
But we can't just post and then go act like an idiot.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We've got to live what we're putting out. Like, you've got to live that. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean be weird or crazy or just, you know what I mean?
Right.
Weird about it. That just means like Jake brought up an example with some guys at work. Is this all right? I tell this?
Yeah.
So like, Jake's obviously making some changes in his life as well, and his guys at work are seeing it. And some of his guys brought up, "Hey man, the podcast,
right?
Blah blah blah." And next thing you know, they're all, talking Jesus,
sitting around talking,
at work. But Jake didn't bring that up.
No,
Jake didn't do anything.
Nope.
He was just being this new person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He didn't go in there and shove scripture down their throat.
Right.
But they knew something's different. They can see it. They feel it. You know what I mean? And that brought up, that's not weird. Like, they brought it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And there's so many more people
and
out
when
there.
that happens, not to cut you off, but like when that happens, that's when they're available to it.
Yeah.
Open to it.
Yep.
And that's when you and God can get to work.
Yeah. 100%.
And start your discipleship.
Right. And it's like, I think too, a lot of it is like you not only have to live it, right, but you also have to know how to deliver the message in a way that people are going to understand it, right? So like if you're, you have the people that will shove the Bible down people's throats, right? And then some people that works for, right? Yeah. Some people it doesn't. Some people it just turns them off. So it's like you have to continue to live your life in a way in your faith that people will notice, and if people come to you and they want to have that conversation, then you are doing just as good of a job as anyone that is really pressing the subject, right? Because you're allowing those people to come to you. And one of the things we talk about is if you're going to accept Jesus in your life, you have to be willing to accept it. You have to be open to it. You've got to be willing to basically say, okay, I'm going to do this, and nothing is going to come in the way of that. Like, you have to be willing to change. And so in my mind, when individuals come up to, anybody and they question something, or they say, hey, I saw your podcast, or something on the podcast, and bring it up, they are coming to you willing to learn. Like, they're willing to, they're opening themselves up to change, because they want to understand what it is that you're trying to say. And they want to understand, why has your attitude changed so much, like, positively? Why are you the person that you are now and living the way that you are now? And I just think that there's so many ways to go about it, and it happens every day. And you just got to be, you just got to see it.
Like, you need your car worked on, right?
Yeah.
What do?
Right.
You wait for the mechanic to come to you?
Right.
No,
Exactly.
You go to him.
Yeah.
And you get it fixed.
Yeah.
You get it worked on.
Yes.
That's the same with this.
Mm-hmm.
You need Jesus? Well, he's
Right.
waiting on you.
Right.
Like, he's there. Like,
Yeah.
the auto shop's right there.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you need your oil change, your engine's going to blow. Go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. There's a
but-
bullet point on this that I
Hit it.
just read that is extremely, like, strong, right? So it's like, okay, this is what it says. Whether you're young or old, new in faith or battle worn, his hand is still ready. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Right? That's saying that no matter if you are new to Jesus, if you are a seasoned veteran, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
He's there. Like,
Yeah, I mean, so, you bring that up. I listened to the Unashamed podcast with Jace Robertson and some of those guys, and they're going through the book of John right now, and they are learning new things and they're seasoned.
Right.
Like, they're pastors.
yeah.
Jace, I don't know how old Jace is, like 55.
Yeah.
Like, been there, done that his whole life. But, like, as you grow in your faith, even 30 years down the road, a verse you read today is going to mean something different 30 years. Like, as you grow, things, your perception and things change, and, like, you see more, you see things differently. It's just so crazy. And that, as you say that, I don't know, that kind of brought that to mind.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy that you bring up the Unashamed, because I was watching a reel the other day, and like, everybody knows that the Robertsons, and they're on the absolute faith train, right? Like, they just and they brought up something. Phil, rest in peace, he brought up something in the Bible, and Jace looked at him like, Phil, that doesn't say that in there. And Phil said, yes, it does. And Phil took him right to the page, and Jace is like, when did that get in there? He's like, I've read this Bible, frontwards, backwards, upside down multiple times, and I've never seen that in there. It's just crazy.
You talk about that. We talk about that family, and we're on generations, right? Mm-hmm. Phil made that decision in his late 20s to absolutely change everything.
Right.
You had one guy, and he changed that generation, his boys.
Yep.
Now look at their kids. Now imagine their kids.
Right. Yeah.
Their kids.
Yeah.
Like, you see how this is affecting their whole family just from one person making one decision.
Right.
Think about that.
Yeah.
It gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
One person making one radical decision
Yep.
to live for Jesus.
Yep.
Has changed their entire family for generations and generations and generations.
Yep.
Like, you're seeing it.
Yeah.
And that's just so powerful.
And if
it's more powerful. Like, this is very serious. Like, this is so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, it really is.
And if you've seen the Blind, which is the movie on basically the life of Phil Robertson and how, his life before and then after finding the Lord, and there's a scene in there where the preacher actually comes to the bar that Phil owns, right? And he tries to talk to Phil, and Phil instantly shuts him down and kicks him out of his bar. And when we talk about you have to be willing to let him in, and you have to be open to this, and this is where the kind of going with this is that it wasn't until Phil finally said, you know what, I'm done. Like, I want this, I'm open to it, and that's when his life changed,
right.
And so, in not every, but a lot of aspects in life, like the God is trying to make his way into your life, and you don't know it at that time. Looking back, now that we've changed us,
you see things from 5 years ago.
Exactly.
Like, oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah, he has tried over and over and over again, but we are not
blind.
Yeah, we are not willing to allow it.
Hence the movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
yeah.
Let's get it.
And then so once you reach that point to where that you're just ready, like it's going to be like an overwhelming feeling. It's going to be, honestly, it's kind of scary at first because you're just like, everything changes
it's uncomfortable.
so fast.
Growth comes with being uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah.
If you're uncomfortable, it means you're growing. You're stepping out.
Yes.
And that is such a great thing. Like,
yeah.
You get more joy. Like, and it says in the Bible, like, you will get so much joy from helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I got a text this week that said, been listening to the show, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's now brought me closer to God, once again.
Mm-hmm.
I've fallen off, but I'm back on because of your show and what you guys are doing. And now I'm discipling somebody at work.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't say to do that.
Right. Yeah.
I didn't tell them that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean. You just live your life and don't be weird. And like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't tell them to do that, but like, we're making such an impact here that, I don't know, it's just so cool. And you like, back to the joy thing, you just get so much joy out of that.
Oh yeah.
Just, it's so filling.
It is.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For somebody. And you didn't even like, I don't want to say you didn't try, but like, just us plugging into here just makes the difference.
Right.
And then you get those random messages out of nowhere. Like, literally, we've been getting so many messages out of nowhere. Like, from the time we kind of changed this podcast to this style,
right.
We have been getting way more messages in our inbox of just people's stories.
Yeah.
And or just how, like, man, I love what you guys are doing. Like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm connecting with people that I wouldn't ever connected with.
Right.
Like, it's so cool. Like, it just brings you so much joy. Like, I can't even describe it. Like,
and I will say this, I highly encourage, so every Friday morning we have men's group here at the call shop, and it has honestly been life-changing for, I mean, definitely me, just having some of the guys in here. And one thing that we talk about in there, and what I'm saying is I highly encourage you, as whether it be a men's group or a women's group or whatever it might be, I highly encourage you to, if you don't have one that's already started, that's local to you, that you know of, start your own. Just get a group of people together and have these conversations, because it has allowed me to open up about things and gotten more understanding of things, and then just the stuff that other individuals may bring up. I can assure you are surrounded by more godly men or women than you think you are, because there's a lot of times, like we talked about this morning in the group, like unless you are like open and projecting everything, people may not know, and so when it just gives you the opportunity to have those conversations and relate really to what is going on with other people, that it's just it's a really cool
that
thing.
was like 2 months ago. I would have never thought I'd do that.
Nope.
3 months ago, I never thought I'd be talking like this on this podcast.
Right.
But here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2 months ago, when I started the men's group, I think it's been about 2 months, probably.
Yeah.
Month and a half.
Yeah.
Whatever it's been, I thought I did not think that was in my wheelhouse to be like, let's start a men's group. It was uncomfortable, weird. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm introvert,
Yep.
But like, I'm gonna go ahead and read this third part, because this is a segue into this, and then I'm gonna talk more about that topic right there. But the third part of this verse here is the Lord is trustworthy in all he promises and faithful in all he does. And that kind of gets me back to praying. And what you ask for might not be what you get.
Right.
But God has a roundabout way of answering that prayer, even if it's not exactly what you wanted. He answered it. And that's what happens with the men's group to me. So, going to church every Sunday, I wanted something, I wanted to plug in more to here. And I wanted to be around more people,
Right.
like-minded individuals. So I wanted to do Wednesday night church, right? And, talking with the church, we ain't got nothing for the kids, blah, blah, blah. And it would be hard for me and my wife to go because she gets home, at 6:30. Like as soon as we get home, we got to be on the road.
Right.
Like there's no time for changing. We just got to go. Right. And there's nothing for the kids. It's just chaos.
Right.
It's going to be stressful, and I was willing to make the commitment. But it was hard, but I just prayed about it, and I was praying before that and I was really disappointed. Like, man, why isn't God figuring this out for me?
Right.
Like he is just this is just roadblocks. Like, why isn't he figuring this out? And I don't know what happened, but the men's group.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't have to be Wednesday night.
Right.
I just wanted to be around like-minded individuals.
Right.
Here I am every morning on a Friday starting this men's group.
Yeah. And
I started it, and then after looking back, I'm like, he answered that prayer.
Yeah.
And then so one thing you guys can do to see if prayers are really getting answered, or it might not be your way, but if they're really getting answered, is to write down, so say 3 months ago, I write down, I want to go to Wednesday night. I want to be around more like-minded individuals.
All right.
Okay. When Wednesday night got out, then men's group, you don't think about it. You go back through what your prayer request was. There it is. It's he did answer that. He is listening. He is answering. We just got to
yeah.
You know what I mean? We just got to see that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And be open to that. And there it is. You know what I mean?
And trust that he's going to fulfill that. You know what I mean? And not and understand, like you said, that it may not be exactly what you had prayed for, but like we've talked about on previous podcasts, is a lot of times it's bigger picture stuff.
It is
the way that he answers. So you're a lot of times when you're praying about a certain thing, small picture, and he's looking at the big picture. And oftentimes what you're praying for may not be necessarily what you need.
Ready for this one?
Go.
Little picture was Wednesday night at church, just myself. Big picture was I'm getting the same thing out of this men's group, but affecting everybody that walks in the building.
And I'm fairly
big picture.
certain we've had a new new person just about every time join us.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had two
new ones today.
2 new ones today. A new one last week, and then 2 new ones week. Yeah, every week's been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It is really cool.
So, and sometimes we don't cut it off.
No, we don't.
So today it was 3 hours. We get into the 4th hour. Here we are still talking because it's
yeah.
I'm sorry, but once you get into this and realize what all this means, you can't help but keep going. You don't want to shut it off. It's so it just fulfills you. You know what I'm saying?
And then
but we don't make it weird. Hey, if you got to go.
Oh yeah,
it's 4th
for
of July,
sure.
Some guys got plans around 9.
Yeah.
So there's a parade and this or that.
Yeah.
Anybody can cut out of here whenever. It ain't like that.
Yeah.
But we're also not going to shut it down when God's moving.
Right.
You cutting God off?
Nah.
I ain't.
Nah. Nah.
I ain't.
Yeah. And when you get into situations and conversations that you relate to like that, then it's just, it's easy to get caught up in that and really stay caught up in it. But one thing that was talked about this morning too is, and we've talked about this on previous episodes, and it's about chasing, continuing to chase. One of the gentlemen here had the conversation had come up about, once you feel like it's you get content with where you're at in your faith, and then as that happens, you're on a you start to tend to go on a downhill, further away from what you're supposed to be doing versus continuing to chase. And the one thing that a gentleman had said today was the walk down the hill is a lot easier than the walk back up. It's a lot faster and a lot easier to walk down the hill than it is to walk back up the hill where you need to be. So that just kind of enforces the, continuing to chase and continuing to do what it is that you need to do, and not allowing yourself to be content, and just really just try to do the best that you can to stay on track at all times. Like we had talked about, we need to live it, every day, every moment, and know that people are watching you do anything that you do. So whether it be your kids, your wife, your family members, if they see you continuing to live that way, they will follow. So
generations to come. I'm going to read this little note out of my study Bible here. And it's of this verse, and it actually is Psalms 145, 10 through 13. But like the study part, kind of the explanation, so to speak, it reads, the psalmist celebrates the wonder of being part of God's kingdom. God's people are to see his kingship as a gift of his goodness, not a burden. So and the psalmist is that's the author of the book of Psalm. And so the author celebrates the wonder. So who's writing this? I don't have that much detail, but I got to learn more. But anyways, like it celebrates the wonder of being part of God's kingdom. Like that's what he's writing about. And God's people are to see his kingship as a gift of his goodness, not a burden. Don't see this as like another thing I gotta do.
Right.
This is this is truly a gift, and when you plug in the right ways, like you will see, like this is so gifting to your life, and the generations to come that that are coming in everybody's coming in contact with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just such a cool.
I like what you said there. When you plug in the right way.
Yeah, plug in the right way.
That's good there.
I mean, like
good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not trying to blow the breaker.
Got no wires crossed.
You know what I mean? Like you've got to plug in the right way. You got to be available.
Yes.
And truly see this for what it is, because this is the book of life. Yeah. This is not a book of death. This is the eternal book of life. Like,
yes. And there is a difference between plugging in and plugging in the right way.
There is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We can post verses all day long.
But if we ain't living it.
We ain't living it.
It don't mean nothing. All right. So we are on a good start to this podcast.
You think that was a good tone to segue into this?
So it's going
this chaos?
It's going to have to be, because it's fixing to get smoky. Matt's fixing to have some smoke rolling out them ears of his.
No, I mean, we're just going to... Where's that note? There was a note here.
Oh, jeez.
I'm plugging in again. But, gosh dang, there's one about the truth. Because we're going to speak the truth.
We are going to speak the truth.
Doesn't mean we're mad or hate or angry. But no. Sometimes the truth hurts.
What'd you say on the last episode? That
I don't know, hit me with it.
The Lord does not sugarcoat the truth, because that's not love.
Yeah. Sugarcoating it is not love.
It's not.
That isn't.
No.
It really ain't.
And we love all of y'all, so we ain't going to sugarcoat nothing on this episode. Matt might get up and walk off the set. But we fixing to get it done.
God doesn't say things just to make you feel better. He speaks the truth. That holds. So, like, he's not going to sit here and be like, he's not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. He's going to speak the truth.
Yeah.
Whether you like it. Because there is, like, they say God can do all things. Well, what he can't do is lie. He can't lie.
Yeah.
So think about that. He cannot lie. So if you want to think of something he can't do, he cannot lie. He's going to speak that truth, and sometimes truth hurts.
And that is what we are fixing to do now. Do you have anything before we get into this?
I don't know. That was really cool. I liked that.
Yeah, that was good. But now we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go grab the fire extinguisher, because he's about to go up in flames. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Last Flight Show, brought to you by Last Flight Calls and Gear. This episode starts now.
And we are back. Couldn't find the fire extinguisher, so hopefully this goes better than planned.
We actually didn't even get out of our seats.
Nope, we didn't.
I have no idea what the notes are for this show. So
Nope, because they're not printed out. It's all a secret. So
I don't know what he's going to do to me.
So we try to be unscripted as possible, but we also have points that we want to make and cover within the podcast. So when I'm looking at these notes, they're not detailed notes. They're basically like if you were to grab a book or something, and when someone's telling you something that's important and you're like half listening and you just write down, like they just told you a full paragraph and you just write down like 3 letters, you know what I mean? Or 3 words that, you know, can roundabout way. That's what these notes are. Normally we print these out and then Matt gets a copy and then I get a copy. But today,
this is really going to test me.
I'm going to leave Matt over here all by himself and not knowing what's coming. I'm going to blindside him and we're going to see how he handles it. So hopefully we don't need the fire extinguisher because the fire extinguisher we have is not up to date, not up to code. It probably hasn't been checked in 15 years. Just kidding. I didn't even look for a fire extinguisher.
And what are we talking about?
So,
did you even tell him?
I did in the intro, but I'm going to cover it again here. We are talking about the reality of being on a Prostaff. Okay.
Now, here we go.
Here we go.
And we're just going to get my hot take on it because I've kind of seen, I got both sides.
Yeah.
I am, quote unquote, Prostaff for some companies, but I'm also the owner of Last Flight Calls, duck call company, where people are constantly asking to be Prostaff.
Yeah.
So I get that side, but I also get the me being a Prostaff side, being the photographer that I am.
Right.
And kind of the knowledge I know with marketing and all that stuff. You know, and the cross branding and the leveraging each other's brands and all that stuff.
Yep.
So I've got a well-rounded deal with both sides, and you know, that's where this is coming from. So just know the foundation of this isn't just like from me just pulling it out of the air. It's from experiencing it as a business owner, but also as that creative,
right? Yes,
and marketing mind.
And what and who really this is obviously designed or directed toward the people that are currently on Prostaff. And if you got a good relationship with whomever you're Prostaffing for, that's great, and that's part of, you know, something down the line here is the relationship. But you know,
and I trust anybody that listens, like, know your worth, know your value, and have good. God gave us the gift of discernment.
Yeah,
like we have that gift to discern, is this good for me or not?
Right.
And like Scott talked today at the men's group, or this was after he was talking to me, you know, if it's a good deal for both parties, it's a good deal. If it's a good deal for the company and they're ripping you off, but not for you, that's a bad deal, or vice versa.
Right.
If it's got to be a good deal for both parties, or it's just not a good deal.
Yeah.
You know, if I buy something from you for $200 and you know, it was really worth $1,000. You just don't know what you have.
Right.
And I'm sitting here like, oh yeah, I'm about to get one up on him.
Yeah.
Bad deal.
Right.
It's a bad deal for Jake. So it's not a good deal.
Right.
Or say he knows it's $1,000, but he needs the $200 now. So I'm going to give him the $200. It's a good deal for both people. He needs the money now. He gets his money, and I got a good deal on it. It's a good deal for me.
Right.
That's a good deal.
Yep.
So, and that kind of what I'm going to use as the foundation of this discussion is it's got to be a good deal for both parties, or it's bad faith.
Yeah.
You're operating in bad faith.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies do not operate in good faith. You know, and I get there's a lot of greed involved, money involved, and that brings up another thing. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
The root of all evil is greed.
Yeah.
But it's the love of money.
The love
of money is the root of all evil.
Yep.
I said that totally weird.
Yeah, it's fine.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets the first part.
Yeah.
The love of money.
Yeah.
You know, I can take my $1 million and I can take it and go build a bunch of homeless people houses. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Or I can take that $1 $1,000,000, spend it on myself, get some drugs, whatever it is.
Or do what you have to do.
You know what I'm saying?
To get it.
It's not the money that's the problem.
Right.
It's the love of money.
Right.
It's the greed. It's all of that. It's the selfishness. So, and unfortunately, a lot of companies operate with that mindset. I mean, I get it. There's a bottom line involved.
Yeah.
And all that. But, so just that's the foundation of this. I'm gaslighting Jake because I'm trying to not get into these questions.
So what I'm going to do is so normally we have broken down, this is a way that we're going to bring up this topic. And then once we're done with that topic, we'll go on to the next topic. And I think that the more that we have this conversation, that the more that all of these topics are going to blend. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break this down. This is going to be an overview of the topics that are going to be covered in this episode. And instead of going, in line, then we'll just cover everything in a big nutshell. So the first topic, obviously, is the reality of being a pro staff. We've talked about that. The second one is knowing your worth. Matt just touched on that just a second ago. But in saying that, you also have to take into consideration what you're capable of doing. So what you say you can do versus what you've proven you can do are two different things, right? Yep. And so that's where it goes into knowing your worth, And then the third thing is pro staff versus partnership, and that circles back around to what I was talking about a little bit ago. Is if you have a good relationship with whomever you are pro staffing for, that's different. As long as you know that you're not being taken advantage of. The goal for this podcast or this episode is to make those of you that believe that you have a good relationship with your partner or the company that you are pro staffing for, believe and think about, do you really have a good relationship? Is it a good relationship in your mind? Does it work for you? Or has no one ever brought to you that you could potentially be being taken advantage of? And that is where this episode is going to go, because just like you, if you're listening to this and you are in that situation, I was in that same situation. I was trying to pro staff for anyone and everyone. I grew up watching hunting shows. I wanted to do that. It was so cool to say, I was partnered with this company or I'm partnered with this company. But at the end of the day, it's not as cool as it would seem.
Everybody wants to be somebody.
Exactly.
But don't ever forget to be yourself.
Yes. Today's world and pro staff world is different than it was in the 60s and 70s when pro staff was true pro staff.
Well, before internet, really.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, this all got off.
It might not have been 60s and 70s. It might have been 80s and 90s. But
I mean,
whatever, you get the point.
I wasn't involved in all this before pre-internet days.
Right.
Early 2000s or whatever.
Yes.
But it all has certainly gone off the rails since then.
Yes.
And this is all going to look different, for everybody. I'm kind of getting a more open mind on it too. Mm-hmm. As I grow my faith and everything, that as I talk about the good deal, if a company offers you a 40% off, which we before has been no, I'm not doing that. I'm not paying money. I'm not paying you money to promote your company,
right?
To do work. I'm not paying you to work for you.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's crazy.
Right.
However, I'm coming off that a little bit under one condition.
Ooh.
I know. And that is, if you're trying to build a portfolio,
yes,
it then becomes a good deal for Jake.
Yes.
But it's not always going to be a good deal.
Right.
And it takes a really open-minded company also to see, hey, Jake's not quite there yet on his capabilities, okay, hypothetically. And Jake, what we can do for you now is just give you 40% off. Here's a couple free items. Let's see what you can do. Right.
Yep.
Unfortunately, a lot of companies ride that for as long as they can in bad faith, because of the money.
Yep.
And Jake needs to have good discernment and know, hey, I'm now at this level. Hey, I need this now. Mm-hmm. I need all free product now. Okay, then we go to the next step. Hey, I need, whatever new you're coming out with for the next year, and I need, $2,000. Whatever the case may be.
Right.
There's levels to this.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I'm kind of backing off of that deal a little bit because of if it's a good deal for you to get that foot in the door and to build that portfolio, then it's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's a good deal for both companies. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have to quite get their neck too far out on the line on you, but also enough to let you build that portfolio, prove out what you can do, let you learn a little bit, you know, in the real world of, you know, working with a company.
Yeah.
You know, but unfortunately, you know, a lot of companies don't want to go any further.
Right.
Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And you can really spot that out because, I mean, there's companies online that will advertise Prostaff. We're taking Prostaff, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know, they got 2,000 Prostaff members. Well, that's their whole stinking company.
Right.
Like, okay, we got a problem there. That's not,
Yeah.
that's obviously not going to be a good deal for you.
Right.
Because they're obviously not open to that situation. You know, whereas like as the business owner at Last Flight, you know, we don't have a Prostaff. I call it more of a family.
Right.
It's a very small deal.
Community.
Community.
Yeah.
We don't advertise it. We don't put it out there. Kind of a closed circle. And I hate for it to be quite like that. But the reason it has to be that way is because I don't have the budget to pay 20 guys what they deserve to be paid.
Yeah.
I can do 3, you know, but I can't do, you know what I mean? I can't do a bunch. So unfortunately, I have to kind of limit, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So what you're doing...
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So not to interrupt, but what you're doing is the traditional Prostaff program.
Yeah.
So before, years ago, it was you had 3 or 4 guys that you paid, you gave them a camera, and you gave them equipment or calls or whatever it is that your company sells, and you said, I'm going to pay you to go out and get content. This is promotional content. I'm going to pay you because it's benefiting the company. Since then, the internet has made a huge boom, right? We've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you know, everything, all of these platforms that a company can just go to and they can post pictures, they can do whatever. The Prostaff has now come from what Last Flight does and what in the traditional way to do Prostaff to a Prostaff of 2,000 people that are basically paying the company to promote their product. And we talked about this before, you know, something to think. There's companies right now that are like, oh my gosh, don't tell these people that because we're going to leave. But this is what we're doing. But we're also going
we won't say names, but
No.
there's a lot of, I mean, you guys know.
Yeah.
Like you guys know, like if you're listening to this and some of these points are hitting home, you know.
Yeah, you know.
I don't need to say the company. You know.
And we're going to circle back and then we're going to give it from a company's perspective too, you know, because there's a lot of people that they want to be Prostaff and they want free gear, they want money, they want this, they want that. But what have you done to prove that you are worth that? And that's what we're going to circle back to that. But right now, let's go back to being an actual Prostaff for a company. Let's say you get 25% off of the product and that your company sells, okay? And let's not get confused because that 25% is not off of the company's cost. That 25% is off of retail. So you're still paying for the product. The company is still benefiting off of your credit card. They're still benefiting off of your cash. And you're going out and doing all the work to promote this company. When you have 2,000, I'm not even going to say 2,000. When you have 100 to 200 Prostaff
don't need
members,
to be that big.
right? That company is making its money all off of the staff members that are doing all the work for the company.
And that's their business. That is their business model. So you're not going to really change that.
Correct.
You're not going to change anything.
No.
Like it's a bad deal. And unfortunately,
Yes.
once you reach a certain point where you've kind of outgrown what they have to offer, you need to move on. And
Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Like that's totally okay. Like move on and keep growing. Like if you're just going to stay stuck with that company, you're not going to grow.
Right.
Because there's just like, if they're not willing to help you grow, like grow with you, like you're not gonna grow.
Yeah.
And from the business side, you know, when I've taken people on early on, it's been, you know, people that weren't quite as skilled yet, but it's like, hey, like, come on, I'll get you a couple calls and I'll teach you how to do what you need to do for me. And if you can do that, then, you just keep rolling it into more things or whatever. That's why we keep it small, because I want to be able to, afford who I have.
Yeah.
It's not a huge budget for that stuff. So I just want to be able to treat people appropriately.
Right. Yeah. And it circles back to knowing your worth. Right. So we're here telling you to be careful of who you're pro staffing for and know your worth. But at the same time, what you say that you can do, okay, is different or could be different than what you actually can do. So on the company side of things, years ago, it was kind of the same kind of deal. The company, told the staff what they wanted and provided them with the tools to complete that task and paid them and everything else. Now, because everybody, and me too, this is how I got into that gig, because everybody grew up watching hunting shows, this, that, and the other, they want to be part of that. So they're willing to sacrifice whatever it is that they have just so that they can say that they're on a pro staff. What a company wants to see is when you fill out a pro staff application, okay, 99% of the time on that application, you're going to see a part where you have to put in your social media links. You have to put in your Facebook or your Instagram, your YouTube if you have it, whatever it might be. And a lot of times those companies are going to go to your social media and they're going to see what you have done. Now, if they see a bunch of content that correlates with what you're telling them, then that's one thing. If they go to your social media and they see stuff that is nowhere near what you say that you can do, it's going to be a different story for you, right? So it's kind of a give or take thing. You just have to be careful with being taken advantage of. Like if you have your expectations are to go in and grow within yourself, then a pro staff position may not be a bad deal for you, other than the fact that you're paying that company. But if you are a capable producer, do not waste your time with pro staff unless they're going to take care of you or be more of like a partnership like you're talking about. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Or if they're willing to I got some companies that pay me on a monthly basis. Every single month I get a check in the mail. If you're good at what you do, that's a great deal for you. You get, you got a fixed income coming in from them. But if you're very capable, enough to get that, work on a project basis with these companies. Don't put yourself in a corner where you're stuck with this one company for this year and they're only going to give you a little bit of money, but whatever, why not just work for 5 companies? Yeah. Why put yourself in that corner where you can now no longer work anywhere else but for the company? You're stuck, you're strapped. Yeah. Don't do that to yourself. Be a totally be a freelancer. Yeah. Not tied to anybody. It's a lot more freeing that way. Yeah. And you'll grow a lot quicker and better and be a lot less stressful. Yeah. You know what I mean? Work on a project basis, or, if you can get one to pay on a retainer, that's a great deal too,
Yeah. Here's some food for thought, okay? Especially if you're new into the content creation world, whether it be videography, photography, whatever it might be. Work on building yourself before building another company, right? So work on building your name, as kind of like what you were just talking about as a freelance, and unless you get into a good position to where you are being taken care of by the company that you're staffing for, because I could tell you right now, I know a lot of guys that have absolutely worked their tail off for a company that just got dropped like that, right? So build yourself before you build someone else's company, and then you can do unlimited things. You can work for yourself. You can work for a company may reach out to you and say, hey, saw your stuff on social media. I would like for you to, photograph some of our stuff, or I would like for you to film this video using our product, stuff like that, that eventually can become a good partnership to where both of you are being taken care of fairly. Mm-hmm. So, and I know that you do a lot of that now. I mean, you know what I mean? Like with some of the stuff that, okay, so you didn't reach out to some of the companies that you were working for. Mm-hmm. They would have contacted you. So, and it's not like you were on some 250 person Prostaff list.
Yeah, I mean, some I reached out to, and others I just let come to me. The ones that come to you are the best ones because they need you. Mm-hmm. But like Apex, I reached out to Apex, but like Otis, they came to me at the start. So it's a little bit of, I wouldn't be afraid to reach out to a company, but like if it's your first day on the job, please right. Don't. Like you're gonna, first impressions are everything, and you're gonna put that negative glimmer in their eye, mm-hmm. no matter how good you get. Like that first impression just means so much. Like you guys know that. If it's your first day on the job or first year, don't go reaching out.
Right.
If somebody wants to come to you, that's great. Mm-hmm. They're attracted to what you can do right now. That's great. Mm-hmm. Take it up.
Yeah.
But don't go to a company and this is what I can offer, and it's just cell phone pics or just you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You guys know what I mean.
Right.
It just puts that first impression in them that's not what it should be. Mm-hmm. Versus if say you got 3 years on the job.
Yeah.
And you've built out your portfolio, and a few companies have reached out and you've done good work for them. You can put them on your portfolio, whatever. And then you can start reaching out to some of the bigger boys that that haven't quite heard of you.
Yeah.
Or they don't need to reach out. Like so many people may be reaching out to them.
Yeah.
Or some of it's, kind of half of it's hired in house, stuff like that, where they're not just going to come and reach out to you. But then you can go ahead and put a resume together and a portfolio and get it to that company. Yeah. And right there, that can open up some more doors for you with some bigger guys, some bigger players. But, like I said, if it's your first day on the job, do not do that.
Right.
For one, you don't even have the stuff to give them.
Right.
They don't want an Instagram message.
Right.
You do not do that. They're honestly not even going to respond.
Right.
But if you can... mail them something or get an email to the right person. Right. That's what matters. If you got a good resume, companies you've worked for, with what the expectations were and how you delivered, and here's the portfolio to match. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Right.
Ain't nobody doing that.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, your good guys are, but nobody's doing that. So right there, you could stand out in the top 1% of photographers that you see on Instagram and do that. And like, you are going to be light years ahead.
Yeah.
Just by doing that. It's, so good. So good.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely have to know your worth before you go into it. And definitely, make sure that you are being taken care of fair. Make sure that you're taking into consideration all the cards.
There could be one other question you ask yourself. Well, how do I know if my stuff's to the level it needs to be?
It's a good question.
How do you know? How do I know my portfolio is top tier?
That's a good question.
Well, that's easy though. Look at the guys you already know are top tier. Mm-hmm. And compare. I'm not saying copy, but compare.
Right.
And okay, you might not know the guys behind the photos.
Right.
But I mean, go out to your big players, Mossy Oak, Sitka, Drake, or, whoever it is, your big dogs, Benelli and whoever else. Look at their photos.
Yep.
Do you have a portfolio that can stand up to that?
Right.
And do not get self-biased.
Yeah. My
stuff's good because I did it.
Right.
Nah, forget that.
Right.
You've got to be open. Like, don't be biased on your own stuff. I mean, it's easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you kind of get blinded by, that. But like with an open mind, you know, say you got a Sika flyer and here's your portfolio, open them up. Whose looks better?
Right.
If you can honestly say like, wow, I think I can rival this, send it off.
Yeah.
Send it off. Send it to the companies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how you can know, you know, that your stuff is where it needs to be
Right.
to reach out to those companies.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, I sit and look at Sika's, you know, grainy photos. It's not like necessarily quality of the resolution of the photo is not the quality of the photo
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
The quality of the photo can come from the story within the photo. You know, it's dark out.
That's a good one, dude.
That's a good one.
The resolution of the photo is not the quality
Of the photo. It's
photo.
the story behind the photo. So like
Oof.
Sika just had one. It's like lower light, snow's falling. Like the photo's grainy, and some of that they do add grain into it to tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that with some of my stuff. You know, but you can get that grain too by having a crappy photo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like my point is like it doesn't necessarily have to be the most polished photo out there,
Mm-hmm.
but if you can tell that story, that's what matters.
Yep.
That's what brands want. Good brands have a story behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeti has a story. Sika has a story. Mossy Oak has a story. These brands have a story.
Right.
Last Flight, we're still creating a story. It ain't
Right.
perfect, but
Right.
like, you know, these big brands, they have a good story in it, and that's what sells. You know, that's what sells product is that story. It's you want to be a part of that story.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't because that cooler's $400. That don't matter. I'm buying into that story.
Yeah.
That's why they can get $400 for that cooler.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, Arctic's doesn't quite have as good of a story as Yeti. Send us that cooler's $300 at Arctic.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People will pay more to be a part of that story.
Right. And that's it. See you guys later.
So true though, man.
I mean, it is, you know, and don't get us wrong. You know, I'm not saying not to pro staff. I'm saying to make sure that you're being taken care of and that you're being taken care of fairly. Do not let the companies take advantage of you. Now, there are a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot, there's some benefits to being on a pro staff like that. I would not have met some of the people that I know now had I not gone through that whole pro staff process. The people that you meet along the way, the connections that you make, the friendships that you make, those might be worth it to you. That might be what makes the pro staff worth it. But if you're trying to be at the top, like, or if you're trying to, how do I want to say this? What's the word I'm looking for?
No idea.
Like if you're wanting to make it into the, I guess, the paid staff, the pro staff's really not going to do it for you, unless for whatever reason the company that you're pro staffing for along the way understands and realizes your worth, maybe even before you do. But if I had to give any tips to go away from this, would be to, you know, again, know your worth, know what the product that you're able to create, with whether it be the equipment that you have, the knowledge that you have. The knowledge is the most important, and then just the experience. Make sure that you go into it with those and know that, you know, companies are going to look at that kind of stuff. And then the other thing,
keep going.
Okay, and then the other thing is, you know, your pro staff versus your partnership. Make sure that everything is jiving. Make sure you're being taken care of, and that you're not, you know, just paying for another company and promoting them at the same time. I know there's a lot of companies out there that have a pro staff that can literally stop selling to the public today and still be fine because they have so many Prostaff members that pay for the product that they necessarily don't need the customer base.
Well, it ain't the Prostaff that. At the end of the day, the story is what's going to build your company, not one single Prostaff or not even a group of Prostaff guys. You know what I mean? Like one influencer is not going to build that company.
Correct.
Sure, it can help.
Yeah.
Help, create brand awareness and trust and social proof, things like that. But it's the story that's going to sustain a company, not,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I'm saying is like if they have 200 pro staffers and they're all paying for it, like they don't necessarily need to sell to the public because their pro staff is paying for it anyway. What you got going on over there?
Closer, baby.
Closer.
I'm gonna give you a little something to.
Oh boy, didn't even have to get the fire extinguisher out.
No, that was actually pretty good.
That was good.
Proud of myself.
Well, you've turned a leaf, in the last month or two.
The leaves are turning. The light is coming on, baby.
It is.
Now I'm gonna hit you with the closer here. Something you guys can take out into the real world. Something that matters. The Prostaff stuff's a good topic and one that I like to address because it's kind of a nasty thing in this industry. Honestly, it's I don't like it. And but God's word's what matters most. And if everybody practices that, guess what? We won't have this Prostaff problem. But I'm gonna give you a little closer here. Something you guys can. It's a verse, and something you guys can kind of take out into the real world and challenge you guys to actually implement it into your life. Let's not, after this show, after you turn off Spotify or whatever, close this YouTube channel out. I challenge you with this verse. All right. It's Micah 6:8, and I'm reading out the ESV on this one, and it reads, "He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." Kind of some notes here I have on my phone with that is there's an action, relatability, and kind of grounds you. So gives you a clear call to live with purpose, justice, kindness, and humility. Like, don't forget, when you leave this show without listening, like seriously, take something from this and go out into your life, whoever you talk to next, and show them a different kind of kindness. You just take it out into your family.
Yep.
You just get home from work and walk in your house with a different vibe about you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like something, they can feed off of.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even need to say anything.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you guys know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And this verse also speaks to every kind of person, no matter where you're at, like you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
God's here everywhere.
Yep.
No matter, he'll meet you where you're at.
Yep.
Then grounded reminds us, faith isn't just a belief, it's how you live. And again,
hey, there it is.
Right there says it all.
Right there it is.
This isn't just, it's one thing to believe, but it's how you live. It's one thing to, I know Jesus, but do you know Jesus? There's a difference between, I believe in God.
Yeah.
Then believing.
Right.
Putting it, if you can put it into your life and act it out, I say you believe.
Right.
You know. There's a difference between knowing Jesus and knowing Jesus.
Right.
Like so.
Yep.
I'm gonna read that verse again, and then he has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God. I'm gonna look up the NLT on that. Whoops. And get a little
different wording.
Yeah, get a little different translation, because that's like kind of one that can be kind of hard to you know what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying.
Oops, sorry guys. Hold on, pause.
We don't do cuts, so we're just here chilling on and waiting on you.
No, I got this. All right. Know, O people, the Lord has told you what is good, and this is what he requires of you, to do what is right, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That's a little better translation.
Yeah.
Because like I said, sometimes like flip back and forth. Don't get stuck in one.
Yeah.
Don't read a verse, but man, I don't get it.
Right.
Shut your Bible.
Yeah.
Get on your phone and look up different translations. See if you can kind of decipher what it's saying.
Yeah.
And here in the study notes, it says the Lord wants his people to respond to his redemptive acts with justice, kindness, and faithfulness. Walk humbly. So, yeah.
Yeah. All good stuff.
I like it. I'm going to circle that in here. Always circle the...
Dirty Bible, good Christian.
Yeah. Pastor once said dirty. If you got a dirty Bible, probably going to be a clean Christian. But if you got a clean Bible, probably not a very good Christian. And the point is, if you spend time in here, like, you're going to be better off.
Yeah.
That's the point. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. Hope you really take that seriously and implement it into your life.
Yeah.
And watch what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So. And remember, don't just read it. Don't just listen. Live it. God is good. Keep chasing him. We will see you on the next one.